How's it going, everybody? And today I'm coming at you with one of my favorite decks. This is my Deskbot deck profile. This deck has, ever since I discovered it, has been probably my one of, if not my favorite decks to play. It may not be the most competitive deck, but it is very fun, and it can still do some cool stuff. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the deck. So let's set the extra deck off to the side for now, and let's get into the main deck. And there's a little bit of dirt on the page. Alright, so we're going to start off with just a single copy of Deskbot 1. He's your tuner of the deck. He gains 500 attack and defense for each machine type monster you control, and if there are two or more machine types special summoned at the same time while this is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. So he's pretty easy to get out. He's searchable, so that's why we're only running one of him. I mean, we have a decent amount of synchros in the deck, but he's searchable, and we're running some other tuners, so we're only running the one copy of him. And then we've got 3 copies of your boy Deskbot 2. Deskbot 2 is your searcher of the deck, basically. So whenever it's special summon, you can add 1 Deskbot card from your deck to your hand, and then it also bumps up all your Deskbot monster or all machine type monsters you control by 500 attack and defense, except for this card. So this card is going to be your machine dupe target most of the time. You can target other cards in the deck because all Deskbot cards, as you can see, 500 attack and defense. So you can target other cards, but this is going to be your main machine dupe target. And then your next searcher of the deck is Deskbot 3, running 3 copies of this. So when this card is normal summon, you can special summon 1 Deskbot monster from your deck, except for Deskbot 3, and once per turn during either player's turn, you can target 1 Deskbot monster you control. It gains 500 attack and defense for each Deskbot card you currently control until the end of this turn. So he's really good. He allows you to play usually. So when you normal summon him, you'll usually special summon him and then add something to your hand. And then he can also bump up your cards to your monsters to deal an insane amount of damage. So we definitely want to play 3 of him. Next up, we're going to play 3 Deskbot 4s. He's a very good card in the deck. Basically, if it battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation in either player's turn, you can activate this effect once per battle. Your opponent takes no battle damage for the rest of the turn. Also, you can send 1 Deskbot monster from your deck to the graveyard, except Deskbot 4. And if you do, this card gains attack and defense equal to the sent monster's level by 500. So already that effect is really good. Basically, it's just a monster that, unless your opponent destroys with an effect, like they can't beat over it with another monster because you can just send something from your deck to the graveyard. And it's not once per turn, it's once per battle. So you can just send something from your deck to the graveyard, and then that person's monsters, it's gone. A lot of times people don't know what this card does, and they attack it because they're like, oh, it's 500 attack. And then they're like, nope, it's a bajillion attack. The other effect is if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon 2 Deskbot cards with different levels from your hand and or graveyard in defense position. So that's a really good effect. So he basically, your opponent attacks it, you send something to the graveyard, and you special summon some shit. It's really good. Alright, moving on. Deskbot 5. So we're starting to get into the pendulums of the deck. We're playing 3 of this. This is your MST on legs, essentially. Pendulum. All the pendulum effects of the pendulum Deskbot monsters just say you can't pendulum summon monsters except Deskbot monsters. And let's see. So its monster effect, though, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target 1 spell or trap card on the field and destroy it. So there's where it's MST on legs, but it's got another effect that's really interesting. Well, it's got a couple other effects, actually. It gains 500 attack for each face-up Deskbot monster on your extra deck, so that's decent. It's not quite as good as 500 attack for each Deskbot monster in your graveyard, but it's still decent. Also, if this card in your pendulum zone is destroyed, this is the good effect. You can target 1 Deskbot monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So that's pretty good, actually. That allows you to get extra stuff. Deskbot 6, very similar to Deskbot 5. So same pendulum effect. All the pendulum monsters and Deskbots have that pendulum effect, but then it's also it's got a different monster effects. If it's normal or special summoned, You can target one monster on the field and change its battle position. And this card gains 500 attack for each face-up Deskbot monster in your extra deck, so the same as Deskbot 6 or 5. But this one says if this here's where it differs. If this card in the Pendulum Zone is destroyed, you can target one Deskbot card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand instead of special summoning it. So you could actually get back like a 3 with this, and then next turn you can combo off more stuff, which is pretty good. So we're playing one copy of Deskbot 7 and 2 copies of Deskbot 8. Same pendulum effects. This card gains, so for 7, this card gains 500 attack for each Deskbot card in your graveyard. That's pretty good. And then also, your monsters your opponent controls cannot target face-up Deskbot monsters for attacks except this one. If this card attacks a defensive position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. But he's pretty good. He protects all your other monsters from being attacked, and he'll usually get pretty big. Deskbot 8 will also get pretty big. So he's got a similar effect. This card gains 500 attack for each Deskbot card in your graveyard. Same effect as number 7. And then also, but this one says your opponent cannot target face-up Deskbot cards with card effects except this one. So these two protect your monsters. So this one protects it from effects. This one protects it from attacks. They're pretty good, but the reason we're playing 2 Deskbot 8s is because it can deal a lot more damage. This card can make 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, so that's interesting. Alright, so then we're playing 1 copy of Deskbot 9. This guy is the one that you use to push through all your damage. So once per turn during your main phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the combined attack of all Deskbot monsters you currently control except Deskbot 9. So that effect there, basically what you do is you pump up all your monsters with Deskbot 3. There's a lot of attack on the board, and then you activate this effect during your main phase, and this guy has like 23,000 attack or something like that. Until the end of your opponent's turn, only this card can attack the turn this effect is activated. If this card battles, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated until the end of the damage step. So if you get to the battle phase and this guy attacks, your opponent can't do anything about it, which is really nice. If this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy one Deskbot card you control instead. So you can protect this by just sending something else to the graveyard. So that's going to be it for our Deskbot engine. We're going to move on to our other monsters in the deck. So we are running 3 copies of Symphonic Warrior Guitar. We are running a symphonic package in this deck. So Guitar's effect says you can, its pendulum effect is the one we're going to be using most often. You could use the monster effect, but it doesn't come up as often. So you can discard 1 card and special summon 1 Symphonic Warrior from your deck, except for Symphonic Warrior Guitar, and you can only use this effect once per turn. So basically, we're going to combo that with our 2 copies of Symphonic Warrior mics. And its pendulum effect is kind of useless. It says unless you have a Symphonic Warrior card in your other pendulum zone, this card's pendulum scale becomes 4. So similar to Time Gazer and Stargazer Magicians. And then once per turn during your end phase, you can target one of your banished Symphonic Warriors and add it to your hand. The pendulum effects can really never come into play with this card. You really want to be special summoning this card based off of the Symphonic Warrior Guitar. So when it's special summoned, you can special summon it by removing from your hand 3 symphonic counters, or removing 3 symphonic counters from the field, but that doesn't matter. We're not going to have any symphonic counters. And then also, after you normal or special summon this card, you can normal summon 1 monster during your main phase's turn in addition to your normal summoner set. So that's really good. That allows you to extend your combos more, so you can potentially summon out a second number 3 and then search another thing and then go off from there. Our next monster in the deck, we're playing 3 copies of Speedroid Manko. This is a go second deck, so this helps you kind of not die if you end up going first. Because, you know, this card just stops you from taking damage, so it's pretty good. It's also a level 4, and it's got 100 attack, so it is a machine dupe target, and then you can go into Gear Gradient X with it and then search out maybe a Deskbot 3 or whatever you need, so that you can actually, if your hand's a little bricky, which this deck does kind of tend to do a little bit, so it'll help you kind of fix your hand, so you can go off with that. But it's mainly in here to just not die on turn one. And you can just summon it later. I mean, if you want, and go into Gear Gain X, or even link it away for something else. It's got 2,000 defense, which is not bad. All right, and then our last two monsters in the deck, we're playing one copy of Destrudo and one copy of Gene X Ally Birdman. Birdman's got a similar. These are our other two tuners in the deck, by the way. Birdman's got a similar effect to Symphonic Warrior Mike's. Not real, like it does a similar. It accomplishes a similar goal, but not really the same. Not really, actually. I mean, it's kind of different. But you can return one face-up monster you control to the hand and special summon this card and banish it when it leaves the field. Also gains 500 attack if the return monster was a wind. So you can actually use this to bump, like let's say you bump a 3 back to your hand for next turn. That way you actually have something to start your combos. Because 3 searches out pretty much everything. It'll special summon whatever you want, and then you can just go off from there. So it allows you to have extra plays, and it's a tuner monster, which is good because we've got a lot of synchros in the deck. And then Destrudo, I feel like everybody knows what Destrudo does by now, but if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can pay half your life points, then target one level 6 or lower monster you control. Special summon this card. If you do, this card's level is reduced by the level of the targeted monster. Also place this card on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Destrudo's once per turn. So there's your tuner for you, and it's pretty good. You can use this. You can always guarantee at least a level 7 synchro monster, because it'll reduce this card, but it's already a level 7, so it'll reduce it by whatever monster you play, and then you just add that to the other thing, and so you can guarantee level 7 with it. But I mean, Deskbots have so many different levels that you can usually get kind of whatever you want out of it. So that's it for the monsters. Let's move on to the spells. We're running 2 copies of Deskbot base. I don't think 3 is necessary, and I don't think terraforming is necessary because it is searchable off of Deskbot 2. And it's not an insane ability. All Deskbot monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense. That's decent, but the problem with that is if you play this before you end up machine duping, then you can't machine dupe because now your Deskbot monsters have 5,000 or 1,000 attack, which is not 500 or less, so they can't be machine duped. That's kind of a bit of an issue with this card. Once per turn, you can reveal any number of Deskbot cards in your hand and shuffle them into your deck. Draw the same number of cards. That's a pretty good effect. You can kind of fix your hand. And you can banish 9 Deskbot cards with different names from your field and or graveyard, except Deskbot base. Shuffle all cards from your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard into the deck. That effect almost never gets activated. Alright, next spell. Running 3 copies of Machine Duplication. Like I said, almost every monster in this deck has 500 attack. No reason not to run this card. It's pretty self-explanatory. And we're running 3 of most of the cards in this deck as well, which kind of brings me to my next card, Pot of Desires. Because we're running so many 3-ofs, we can afford this, and it helps us fix our hands. You can banish 10 cards and draw 2. It's pretty good. It's a decent card. All right, on to our 1-ofs. We're running 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reasoning, and 1 Monster Reborn. So Foolish Burial, you can send 1 monster from your deck to the graveyard. A lot of the times it's going to be either Destrudo or maybe Deskbot 1. There's a lot of targets that can go into the graveyard. I mean, you can even send something that you might need to summon off of Deskbot 4. Like it's a pretty useful card. Reasoning's good because there's so many different levels in the deck. It's going to be kind of difficult for your opponent to guess what level you're about to draw because there's like levels 1 through 9 through the deck. So it's going to be a pretty good card. And then Monster Reborn, it's Monster Reborn. If you need an explanation on that, then you should probably stop watching this video. Limited Removal, that's going to be our last card in the main deck. And this is just to push through more damage. You can double the attack of all machine-type monsters you control until the end of the turn. During the end phase of this turn, destroy those monsters. This card I'm considering cutting for something else because it seems a little redundant. Now that I think about it, I might cut it for something else, but I'm not entirely sure what that something else is going to be. just yet, but there we go. That's the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. So the extra deck, we're going to start off with our Synchro monsters. So we got one Deskbot Jet here. Requires a tuner and one or more non-tuners. It is a level 10, and it is a machine type. This card gains 500 attack and defense for each Deskbot card on the field. Let me focus that, actually. And which is pretty good. You can only use the following effects of Deskbot Jet once per turn, and only once that turn. You can target one Deskbot card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon one Deskbot monster from your deck. That's pretty good. You can target one Deskbot card you control and one face-up card on the field and destroy them. So decent effects. It's going to usually have a lot of attack. It's not an insane card, because the problem is it's a level 10. So once you actually do summon it, you're not going to have much else on the field. It is Deskbot card. It does gain attack for Deskbot cards on the field, so you'll still have your scales and your base probably. So it's pretty much guaranteed at least. That's 1,500 from that, so that's 2,000, and then a 500 from the base. So it'll probably be a 500. It'll probably be 2,500 at the very minimum when you summon it, which is not bad. Let's put him up here, right there. And then our next card we're playing is Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. It's a 9-star. When this card is Synchro summoned, you can banish up to one card from each of your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard. The card from the hand is chosen at random. So, pretty good card. Pretty good card. Set it there. We're going into our level 7s now. We got a couple of them. F.A. Dawn Dragster. This is a decent card. It gains 300 attack, equal to its level times 300. I read that completely wrong, but it gains attack equal to its level times 300. So it's guaranteed, 7-star, so 2,100 attack off the bat. Not bad. If this card attacks defense position monster, inflict piercing. Each time an FA spell or trap card is activated, you can increase this level by 1, blah, blah, blah. That effect's useless. We don't have any FA spell or traps. Here's the effect that's pretty good, though. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect, you can reduce his cards by level, and if you do, negate the activation and destroy that card. So that's the really good effect right there. So it kind of just lets your opponent not play the game. We're playing one copy of Odd Eye's Meteor Burst Dragon. I think it's a decent card because you can special summon. With it, you can target one card in the Pendulum Zone and special summon it when this card's special summoned, and so you can target like a level 5, like a Deskbot 5 or whatever, and special summon it, pop a card, and then you can use that level 5 alongside something else and potentially go into a Cyber Dragon Infinity. So decent play there. You can only use this effect of Odd Eye's Meteor Burst Dragon once per turn. Monsters your opponent's possession cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. So it also kind of protects your attacks, which is good if you don't have a Deskbot 9. Metaphys Horus. We're playing one copy of this. This card is Synchro Summon. You can activate the appropriate effects depending on the non-tuner monsters use as Synchro materials. So there's an effect for normal monster, but I'm not going to rate it because we don't have any normal monsters in the deck. But we will be guaranteed the effect monster as well as the pendulum monster. So when it's summoned, we can target one other face-up card on the field and negate that target's effects. That's pretty good. That's already really good right there. And then as pendulum monster, you can choose, your opponent chooses one monster they control and gives control of it to you, but it cannot attack for the rest of the turn. So even if they give you something weak, it's one less monster for them. So a pretty good card to have in the deck. And to round off our synchros, we're playing one copy of Materia Beast. Just give me 1 second. Very professional. When a spell card is activated, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you destroy it, this card must be face up on the field to activate and resolve this effect. So similar to F.A. Dawn's Dragster, however, this is not once per turn, and it can dump you stuff into your graveyard that you can actually use because Deskbots can kind of play out of the graveyard a little bit. So definitely one copy of Materia Beast in the deck. Moving on to our Xyz monsters. Playing one copy of Geargigan X. We've got 6 level 4 machine type monsters in the deck, so pretty easy to summon. And they're also all there's 2 different types. There's 2 different monsters, 3 copies of each. So we got Deskbot 4 and then Speedroid Menko. but they're both machine dupable, so once per turn you can detach one Xyz material from this card, add one level 4 or lower machine type monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. When this card leaves the field, you can target one level 3 or lower Gyurgu monster from your graveyard and special summon that target. So really useful card, helps you fix your hand. And then to round off our Xyz monsters, we are playing one copy of Cyber Dragon Nova and one copy of Cyber Dragon Infinity. I'm not going to bother reading Nova's effect because you're just going to go straight into Infinity. So you basically summon Nova off of maybe two Deskbot 5s or a Deskbot 5 and a Symphonic Warrior Mics, and then you go into Cyber Dragon Infinity. Once per turn, you can Xyz summon this using Cyber Dragon Nova, so that's good. And then this gains 200 attack for each material attached to it. Also, it will gain attack from your Deskbot 2s because they buff the monsters from... they buff all machine type monsters you control, not just Deskbots. And then once per turn, you can target one face-up attack position monster on the field, attach it to this card as a face-up material, so you can steal your opponent's monsters, which is good. Once per turn, when a card or effect is activated, you can detach one material from this card and negate the activation if you do destroy it. So really good cards there. Alright, moving on into our links. I'm just going to push these to the top of the page a little bit. So we're playing 2 copies of Mrs. Radiant. Decent card. All Earth monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense. It's 2 Earth monsters to link away as well. And by the way, I don't know if any of you noticed this, but all of the Deskbot monsters are in fact Earth monsters, so you can get this out pretty easily. Also, all wind monsters lose 400 attack and defense. Now, the Symphonic Warriors are wind monsters, and so is Speeder and Menko, but it's not really that big of a deal. You can target one Earth monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand when this card is destroyed by battle or card effects. That's pretty good, and then you can only use that once per turn. So it just lets you buff your monsters a little bit. It's got good arrows, and you can recycle some stuff from your graveyard. Our other link twos, we're playing one copy of Cleafort Genius and one copy of Underclock Taker. Cleafort Genius, 2 machine monsters. When this link summon monster, or this link summon card is unaffected by spell or trap effects and the activated effects of other link monsters. Once per turn, you can target one face-up card on each player's field, except this card. Both those cards have their effects negated until the end of this turn. When 2 monsters are special summoned at the same time to zones this card points to, you can add one level 5 or higher machine type monster from your deck to your hand. So that's pretty good. Allows you to grab some shit. Underclock Taker. Once per turn, it takes 2 effect monsters to summon it. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster this card points to and one monster your opponent controls. The monster or the opponent's target loses attack equal to the attack of this monster's equal to the attack of the target this monster points to until the end of the turn. You can make your Deskbots pretty big, so you can essentially just make your opponent's monster 0 and then hit him in the face for a bajillion damage. So we're moving on to our link 3s now. Just going to play one copy of Decode Talker for our link 3s. Gains 500 attack for each monster it points to. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, you contribute one monster this card points to, negate the activation, and if you destroy that card. So pretty good. Decode Talker's not bad. And then our link 4, and this will round off our deck, I believe. Unless I counted wrong. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, that's okay. That is 15. For some reason, I thought it was not. Anyways, so 3 plus effect monsters, 3,000 attack. It's your link 4. It's got decent arrows. Neither player can target this card with monster effects. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster on the field that loses 500 attack and defense. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks an opponent's monster, you can place that opponent's monster in a zone this card points to and take control of it, but send it to the graveyard during the end phase of the next turn. So good. You can steal your opponent's shit and deal some damage. So that's it for the Deskbot deck. I like it. It's one of my favorite decks, if not my favorite deck. So yeah, that's the profile, and hope you liked it, and see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, click here. To see the last video, click over here, and to subscribe to me, click my face up here.